Hello and welcome to All Backed Up. I'm your host Dylan, and I'm not joined by anybody today. It's been a busy week, and I've managed to eke out some time to record alone, but nobody else could join me. So I'll see if I can talk about the games I've been playing and maybe some news, just to keep you at least a little bit entertained, because we don't want to lose our so far, year and a half streak of not uploading something. So hopefully you can enjoy me talking about random crap. So I've been playing a little bit more Fallout 3. I didn't play much because I got distracted by various other things that came out. Well, this week, last week, surprisingly I didn't play that much Apex Legends. There was other stuff that came out this week. But I had a few more things to say about Fallout that I've played. I sort of spoke about this last week, but I think the main thing I've enjoyed so far about playing Fallout is just all the little... Basically everywhere you're going, anywhere you're looking, you're constantly getting new stories or expanding on your stories, or just like little bits of information about everything you're doing and building the world. And I think I did talk about this last week, but I guess it sort of I expanded on it. I don't know, appreciated it more as I kept playing, in that there's obviously a surface level game and there's a surface level story that is given to you, and I think is already pretty in depth, but if you pay attention and if you keep sort of what am I trying to say? If you pay attention and if you keep digging in everywhere you can, you find so much more story that relates to everything else. And I just think that's such excellent story building. And I mean, it's obvious. There's people. I feel like lots of people have played Fallout and games like Skyrim, so I'm sure I seem like a fool for not having realised this earlier or not being aware. But I mean, it's just such ridiculously good world building from Bethesda, and I guess sort of in a way it's originally set up by who made the first Fallout. I'm not sure how involved they are, to be fair. I'm not sure how much they build off of the first Fallouts, but you know, there's probably an element of the Fallouts by, what is it, so Black Isle Studios, Interplay Entertainment, Micro 40, or Obsidian Entertainment. Okay, I just read out the entire list basically, and I think it's Obsidian Entertainment that... No, they make New Vegas, that's why I recognise that name. Let's just click it. So Fallout 1 was made by Black Isle Studios, yeah. So yeah, I'm not sure how much it builds off of that for the world building, but there's definitely a ridiculous amount of world building coming in from Bethesda themselves, which honestly I'm impressed with. I also got distracted by playing a shit ton of Crackdown, because it was free on Games Pass, which maybe I'll fawn over Games Pass a bit. Maybe that will be my my solo record for the week, me just going on about how good Games Pass is. But I downloaded a whole bunch of stuff, partly in it because my partner wanted to play some games, and I think that's why Games Pass is good. There's games I wouldn't usually get, so like I think Games with Gold helps with that anyway. Because there's just a bunch of free games. If I see one that I think my partner would enjoy, I'll download it. So that helps already. But obviously, my partner never really used to play games. I think she played like Lord of the Rings when she was younger. A Need for Speed or something weird. She's got a weird combination of games. But really not into the same sort of stuff as me, e.g. sci-fi futurist shooters, military shooters. But Games Pass is really good for that, because there's just so many games that I think she can really get into that I wouldn't have usually bought. Although, to be fair, she's at the moment trying Fable, which I wanted to play anyway, and just have never bought. But, I mean, Games Pass comes with all of those, which is fucking ridiculous. And then, but yeah, so I was playing Crackdown a bunch, which I guess, maybe this week it's thrown off because it's only me recording, but I'll at least save it for the end to talk about. I also got distracted just because I wasn't feeling like Fallout at the time. Went in and downloaded a bunch of stuff, and a few of them were just purely because of nostalgia. I got Fusion Frenzy because, you know, best game in the world. Gary Mark of the Wolves, which if Mark was here, I think we've probably spoken about on the show before. A SN. Oh God, why can't I remember it? I think I'm dying of something. I can't remember anything anymore. Mark of the Wolves for the SNK, and produced by SNK for the Neo Geo. There you go. That's what I was remembering. Mark and I went through a phase of playing a whole bunch of Neo Geo games because he got them working on. He tried to get them working on a Raspberry Pi, but I don't think it quite. I can't remember. But one of those that we played a lot was Gary Mark of the Wolves, which is a great fighting game. I'm not particularly versed in fighting games, but I enjoyed it. We had a good time, and played quite a lot of that for maybe like half a year. And when I saw that it was on Game Pass, super excited. I think I remember seeing it come on Games Pass a while ago and bringing it up then, but then obviously forgot. There's a few other games I downloaded as well, which is why I kind of... Ooh, sorry for the yawn there. Which is kind of why I brought this up. I also downloaded Recore, which is one of those games that's been around for a bit now, so definitely classifies for the backlog. And I remember when I first saw it, just seemed very in-depth and interesting, and I remember it coming out and not making many waves, but from what I'd gathered, people seemed to enjoy it, the people who played it or people who were bothered with it. And there was sort of an element of it's nothing special. It's not incredible or anything, but there's not incredible or anything, but there's something like unique about it. And I've been playing that. I think I played that about as much as I played Fallout this week. And there's just an element to the mechanics in that game that I think are particularly special that you don't really get in anything else, or at least I've not really played anything like it. So there's the very basic sort of shooting, fighting mechanics which you get in other things, which I didn't think was, so far at least, has been quite boring. Sorry, I'm yawning again. So far at least it's been quite boring. You just sort of shoot at shit, and you have to match what colour you're shooting, because the cores have like red, blue, white, or I'm guessing something else, but I've not come across it yet. But there's 4 arrows on the D-pad, so I'm guessing 4 colours. And so that's quite basic, and it can be a little bit boring, but I think because as I understand it, you get more robots. So you start off with Mac, your dog robot thing, but you can make them stronger, and I believe you get other robots, and the robots have special attacks. So you sort of incorporate those special attacks with your shooting and moving around to try and improve your chances of killing these enemy robots. So I think potentially there's an element for some depth in there. So maybe I'm not utilising it to its full advantage yet, but so far with just Mac, it's a little bit tedious at times. But the stuff that I like about Recore isn't really that anyway. It's basically just a 3D platformer. or that's how it feels to me anyway. And the movement in it's really quite cool. You've got just realised it's a futuristic sci-fi shooter, or sort of semi-futuristic. It's super futuristic, but it feels a bit, I don't know. It's got jetpacks in it. Movement, that's the kind of game I like, isn't it? So you've got like a double jump, and you've got this sort of boost. And so just moving around in this game feels quite fun. You sort of glide for a short while over the sand when you use your boost. And there's an element of that to me that seems really interesting and intriguing, in that you just... Maybe it's purely just because as you glide over the sand it leaves a trail, and I think that's satisfying, I don't know. Harkening back to the sandboxes of my youth. But yeah, ReCore has felt like one of those games that's very... I don't know, there was an element of it feeling satisfying to just move around in. I'll give it more of a chance and see, hopefully, if the fighting improves a little bit, because I think if it stays as it is, there's too much shooting enemies for all the platforming that I would just get bored and not want to go back to it. So I'll have to see how that goes, because otherwise I'm just not gonna... I don't think I'm gonna be able to keep myself playing just to keep shooting these annoying spider guys. But that's sort of... I don't think I really played anything else. I downloaded a few of the games, but just didn't get into them yet. And obviously the big game that I've been playing from Games Pass that came out this week is Crackdown 3. I was about to say, I don't know if you guys have played Crackdown, but I keep forgetting that I'm not actually joined by anybody today. But Crackdown is this sort of, again, semi-futuristic shooter with movement-based movement as its sort of core. But the first one, at least, is you just put in a city, you run around, pick shit up, throw it at enemies, shoot enemies, and the sort of, I think the main the sort of core loop within the game is collecting these agility orbs to make yourself able to jump higher, run faster, so you can collect more agility orbs and also punch in enough people that you get strong enough that you can pick up anything you want. That's sort of how Crackdown 1 works, and then eventually you can beat the final boss. And there's an element to it of, you can do it in whatever order you want. You can go to the final boss straight away, I think anyway. You're just very unlikely to beat him. So if you take down the earlier gangs first, then it takes away some of his defenses, takes away some of his backup, so it's just easier to get to the top of the tower and kill him. But there was also this god mode you could do in Crackdown where it fully maxed out all your abilities and then did them up another level, which you couldn't unlock in like normal story mode. And then obviously basically you could jump like the entire height of a skyscraper and kill people with a single punch. You can kill most people with a single punch in Crackdown anyway, but kill big guys with a single punch. Punch a tank and it explodes kind of thing. And that was always fun to just tit around in, but I think I've said it on the show as well actually before, there's an element of it's fun for like, almost like Just Cause, for me at least, there's an element of it's fun for a few hours, then once you've done it, I think it loses a lot of its charm. But there is also sort of this somewhat intriguing backstory to it that doesn't really pad out the game enough, but it's quite fun, with sort of an interesting twist right at the end. Ooh, a bit interesting. I actually watched a video on this from Polygon yesterday, talking about the Crackdown 2 twist, which I won't spoil here. You can go either look it up yourself, play it yourself, but there's a very sort of fun commentary on the corruption of paramilitary or whatever kind of thing, use of propaganda and things like that within these super powerful militaries. that comes into Crackdown 2, which you have to really look in depth to actually see, which is really strange. Like, if you go in and just play Crackdown 2, there's nothing to it, but if you find all these sort of hidden tapes and things like that, there's a whole other element to it. But anyway, Crackdown 3, basically just Crackdown mode, with HD graphics. It's got the same loop of finding agility orbs and killing enemies. This time it's CEOs instead of gang members. It's not actually. There's one CEO, and then there's all her like science executive and security chief, and but I mean, there's even a point where I'm fairly certain I get told by the main guy to kill the kingpin. So I think they're just using some of the same voiceover. It was fun enough to play, but for all the hype that it's been getting, and that first trailer that came out in 2015, where you blow up that skyscraper with your team of Crackdown agents, there is no element of environmental destruction, which was initially promised. That before, in 2014, when they first showed it off to people, there was elements of environmental destruction in the world. That sort of cloud-based environmental destruction was going to be in the campaign, and is not at all in any way. You can't destroy anything. I think there's even less actually than the first Crackdown, because in the first Crackdown you could like take down lampposts and use them as bats and stuff like that. You can destroy some rocks, but what I found really disappointing was that there's not even environmental destruction. There's not even that good of an environmental destruction system in Wrecking Zone. There you go. Which is their cloud-based online multiplayer thing. You get put in teams of Crackdown agents and you fight each other in a cordoned off section of a digital city, so not even the full size, which is again what was initially promised, and you fuck around with the environmental destruction basically, because the killing each other, not fun. I mean, the best weapon is homing rockets. So you just use homing rockets on everybody, and you can see everybody from across the map because they all get highlighted. So it's easy to follow somebody, and you just shoot through walls enough, then you can shoot everybody. But all the towers are supported by indestructible steel beams, so you can shoot walls off, but there's no element of things collapsing. There's no element of things falling down around you. So it just feels a bit fucking shit. I was super disappointed by Wrecking Zone, and Crackdown 3 was okay. I'm glad I didn't have to pay for it. I paid like £2 for Games Pass for this month. I'm glad that's all it cost me, because it was incredibly disappointing if I had paid a full price game. For free, fun enough, but yeah, a lot of build up for basically nothing. Having said that, I did finish it, so I guess there was at least a few hours of entertainment in it for me. I mean, yeah, that's kind of all I've done. It's hard to talk about the little bits of Fallout without having someone there to work around me, but at least you got 20 minutes of me talking to you. My sweet dulcet tones. That's not... I don't sound dulcet in any way. But yeah, hopefully that's entertaining enough for you. I've been Dylan. This has been All Backed Up, an SOS gaming podcast. Something, I can't remember. All Backed Up. You can find us on SoundCloud and iTunes under... I think if you search Shouting Over Static, you'll find us. I think we might now be called All Backed Up. And you can find us on YouTube at Low Expectations Media. There is an All Backed Up playlist. We'll be back next week with hopefully everybody back in tow. I mean, with all likelihood, we'll be recording tomorrow, so I'll have very little to talk about on that show, but at least there'll be other people, and at least you still got this week's podcast, even if a little late. Sorry about that. That is my fault. And see you next week.